Welcome to this class on fluid mechanics, and in this lecture we will be looking at two things. The first of these will be finding forces on curved surfaces. As we have seen in the last class, on a curved surface, the hydrostatic force acts in a different direction at each point. And this is because direction of n changes at each point for a curved surface. But there is a very simple way in which we can find horizontal and vertical forces on curved surfaces. And for that, let's draw a simple free body diagram. Let's see, this is the curved surface. And this curved surface is at some depth h1, and we want to find the force the fluid exerts on the curved surface. So AB is our curved surface on which we want to find the forces. Let us say this is the x direction and this is the z direction, the vertical direction. So what we do is we draw the free body diagram of the fluid which is contained in the volume shown. Now the shown volume is from A and B. We vertically move up to the free surface. So from A when I move to the free surface, and from this B we move to the free surface. And this is the volume V which I am writing. So now volume V, which we are talking of, is bounded by the surface AB at the bottom. On the top, it has the free surface. Now note, it is possible that the fluid may not be actually be present here depending on the configuration in which this body is, but we notionally go up to the free surface and we choose this volume. So now what we will do is we will divide this volume into two parts. So we are now drawing the free body diagram of this volume of fluid. So which is what we have. So this is AB at the bottom, a horizontal surface, maybe let's call it A prime B prime at the top. So what we do is we choose it like this. Let's call this 1 and 2. So we divide V is equal to V1 plus V2. V1 in this view is rectangular. Actually it is cuboidal because this is just a planar view and there is a width W perpendicular to the paper. So this is the volume V1, which is the rectangular volume, and the volume V2 is a horizontal surface at the top, and bottom is AB, and we have, so this is A, this is B, and here we have a vertical line. So this is the volume V2. So we have divided this. Now let us draw the free body diagram of this fluid of volume V. Now what we will have in this free body diagram will be at P at the surface times the area A prime B prime, which is quite straightforward, easy to integrate. And if we are looking at the gauge pressures, then gauge pressure will be 0. Now we have, let me call this point as C. So we have here Fx, let's call it 1. On surface A prime, we will have Fx2, and on BC, we will have Fx2, and because this is a vertical surface, then, so now first I have shown Fx1, Fx2, and let me, in fact I should use, this is Fx1, Fx2, let's call this just as Fx and Fx. These are the forces by surrounding fluid on the volume V. At top we have P surface times A prime B prime. Now these are the forces due to the surrounding fluid. What else? What are the other forces? There is a force FH and FB be horizontal and vertical force respectively, being applied by the surface AB on the fluid. And actually what we need as the answer to this problem are minus FH and minus FV. These will be the horizontal and vertical forces on AB. So this is what we are looking for. So these are the forces. Is there any other force? And clearly there is the body force, the force due to the weight of the water. And this force, I'll show it now. Let me use a different color for this, and I use, let's say, the red color. So I will show W1 and W2. W1 and W2 are the weight of water in V1 and V2. So then we will have W1 and W2. W1 will be equal to rho water G V1. This will be equal to rho water G V2. So these are all the forces which are acting. And now let's do a force balance of this. So what we do is, so now we do sum of all the forces in the x direction. Now in the x direction, what are the forces? Fx1, Fx2, Fh and Fx. Okay, so forces in the x direction are, so we have Fx1 minus Fx2 plus Fx plus Fh is equal to 0. So that means, let me just show this here on this graph here. This is AB, this is Fx2, this is Fx1, this is Fx, and this is Fh. So now clearly Fx1 is equal to Fx2. At all points, the pressures in equal depths will cancel each other. So Fx1 and Fx2 are equal, and what we get is Fx is equal to Fh, or rather Fh is equal to Fx. Now what is Fx? So now we have this area AB. I project this in the horizontal direction. So this is, let's call it, we had called this C. So BC is the projection of curved area AB in the x direction. If I project it in the x direction, I get this area. Now, what is Fx? Fx is the force on CB. Now, CB is a planar area. So, Fx will be equal to, I look at this CB. So, therefore, well, one thing I can draw is, I can draw the loading diagram. So, if this is depth D1, rho G D1, rho G D2. So, this is equal to area of the trapezium. And we have also shown, if the projected area, if we look at its centroid, then Fx is also equal to rho G times depth of centroid of the projected area multiplied by the projected area. So it is as if I have to find the horizontal force on BC, and that will give me Fx. Now this also tells you, if you have 2 points A and B, and this is in under some fluid, then if there is a curved surface AB, for all such curved surfaces, the Fx is the same. So whether it is this surface or a surface AB like this, or a surface 1, surface 2, surface 3, surface 4, or a planar surface AB, let's call this surface 0, Fx on all these surfaces is equal to, you take the projection of AB, So you take this projection of AB, which is equal to BC. Then you find rho G times depth of centroid of BC multiplied by BC, and the area of this, if this is rectangular area, then this will be BC multiplied by the width, or you just take the projected area and this will be equal to Fx. So to find this Fx is straightforward, but this, while Fx is equal to this, it does not act at centroid of BC, but it acts effectively on the centroid of the trapezium loading. So it will be acting, net Fx will act at the centroid of this loading. So this is what we have for the horizontal force. Now the vertical force, if you see, vertical force will be equal to basically W1 plus W2, and this is the vertical force due to gauge pressure, assuming that the surface pressure is equal to 0. Otherwise we have to add P surface A also. Otherwise we have to add this P surface A. So this is due to the gauge pressure and this is due to surface pressure. This is the net, and W1 plus W2 will be equal to rho G times V1 plus rho G times V2. This is what this term is, and this will be equal to rho G times V. So the vertical force on a curved surface, if you have to find, what you do is you go up vertically to the free surface. So from A you go up to the free surface, from B you go up to the free surface. Let the enclosed volume be V. Then the vertical force Fv is equal to rho of the fluid times G times this volume V, and this will act at the centroid of the volume V. So this is how one can find the vertical force on a surface. Let us just look at a very simple example. Let us take a quarter circle gate, a quarter circle curve AB of length L in the direction perpendicular to the paper. And this is submerged in a fluid of density rho, submerged in a fluid of density rho as shown. Now find horizontal and vertical forces on AB due to water. Now radius is given as R. Now this is the surface AB and we have fluid here. Okay. Now to find Fx, we take a projection of AB which gives us a section R, and now we find Fx will be equal to the pressure at centroid of projected area multiplied by the projected area. So this will be equal to rho g times r by 2. Pressure at this is r by depth is r by 2 from the free surface. So therefore this is rho g times r by 2 times the projected area will be equal to r times L. This is Fx, and this will act on the gate in the minus I direction. Now to find the vertical force on this, we move from B to the free surface. A is already on the free surface, so we look at this volume V. To find Fz, Fz will be equal to rho g times V, and along AB what we find is the normal is all downwards, so this force will be in the minus K direction. Now what is this volume V? Volume V is equal to this particular volume, so this will be equal to R square minus pi r square by 4 times L. So Fz is equal to rho g times r square minus pi r square by 4 times L in this direction. So this is the Fz on this gate AB. Now from here we can easily work out the concept of buoyancy. If we have a body of volume V immersed in a fluid, then the net upward force applied by the fluid on the body is called the buoyancy force, and the body may be fully or partially submerged. And when we talk of buoyancy, the name we remember is that of Archimedes, who gave us the principle of buoyancy, that when a body is immersed in a fluid, and the volume of immersed portion is equal to Vs, then the buoyant force on the body is equal to rho of the fluid times G times Vs. This is Archimedes' principle. And we can very easily verify this for a fully submerged body. Let's say this is the fluid and there is a body of volume V. This body is submerged in a fluid of density rho. Then what one can do is we divide the body in two parts, an upper part and a lower part. And how do we decide this? So in the upper part, all normals have vertical components pointing down. So if this is like this, we divide this body into two parts, the upper part and the lower part. In the lower part, all normals have vertical components pointing up. And now if you apply principle of finding Fz, so first find Fz on the lower part. This will be equal to the rho g times volume of lower part plus rho g times volume of cuboid above this, and this will all act in plus z direction. And if you find Fz on the upper part, this will be equal to rho g times volume of the upper part. And you actually will go from this surface to the top. So therefore volume of the upper part, and then you will have minus volume of the cuboid above, and this force will act in the downward direction. And when you add the two, actually it will be the other way around, volume of the cuboid above plus this, which will be acting down. And when you add the two, we will be left with nothing but on addition we will be left with rho g times volume of the body. So when we add the two algebraically, we get rho g times volume of the body, and this is the buoyant force. So this is what, and if this is not very clear, let me just draw a simple cartoon here. I'll just come to that in a minute. So for the lower part, so if this is the free surface, this was the lower part, rho g times this V1 acting upwards is the force, and for the upper part is something like this to the free surface. So rho g times V2, this acts downwards, this acts upwards. When you add the two, this part goes away, you will be left only with volume of the body. So this is how this works out, and we can get to the buoyant force. Now we will move on to the next topic, where we want to find pressure distribution in a fluid which moves like a rigid body. And that means now acceleration may not be zero. And there are example of this. We have fluid moving in a container. So there's fluid in a container and the container moves with acceleration A. And we wish to find the shape of the free surface. That could be example 1. The second example could be we have fluid let's say in a beaker, and the beaker rotates about a vertical axis. So now this rotates with angular velocity omega. So, and this axis need not be at the center of the beaker, it can be anywhere. It rotates about a vertical axis. So in these cases, how do we find pressure in the fluid? And in these cases, we assume fluid does not slosh, which means does not slip over one another. That is, it behaves like a rigid body. So now another example could be we have a tube in which we have filled a fluid, and this tube could either accelerate or we could have the same tube like this, which is filled with fluid, and the tube rotates. Now here, because there is a connected fluid throughout, we can assume that pressure in the other place will be as if we have the same fluid all along. And we can work out our relations. So we have the equation minus grad P plus rho G is equal to rho A. And now A is not equal to 0. So let us look at the case of linear acceleration first. So let's say A is equal to A sub x of I. It could be in the z direction also, but we'll leave that for you to do on your own. G is equal to minus G of k. And of course we have the relation grad P is equal to rho times G minus A. So let us write the x component. So partial P by partial x is equal to minus rho times AX, and partial P by partial Z is equal to minus rho times G. So now let's integrate this. So this is 1 This is 2, and we have to be careful. We'll be doing this many times in the course, integrating 1. Now this is a partial differential equation. So we get P is equal to minus rho A times X. And now because this is a partial differential equation, instead of constant, what we will get will be Fz. Now what we do is we differentiate this expression with respect to z. So we get partial P by partial z is equal to df by dz, which I can write it as f prime z. And this is equal to minus rho g, and this I get from 2. So f of z is equal to minus rho gz plus c. And what I get is P is equal to minus rho ax times x minus rho gz plus constant c. Now to find the slope of free surface. On the free surface, P is equal to P atmosphere, which is constant. That is what defines a free surface. So there we will get P atmosphere is equal to minus rho ax times x minus rho gz plus c. So what I can get from here is minus rho ax x minus rho gz is equal to k, which is equal to P atmosphere minus c. So the equation of the surface I will get is, I take z on the other side, z is equal to, I get the equation z is equal to minus k by rho g minus rho ax by rho g times x. So if I find the slope of the free surface, dz by dx is equal to minus ax by g. This is the slope of the free surface, which means if I have this truck, this is x, this is z, slope, and this is accelerating like this, then the slope of the free surface is negative. So therefore I will get, this is how the free surface will tilt. It will tilt backwards like this. Now there is an alternate way to find slope of the free surface, and that is we write dp on free surface is equal to 0, and dp, because p is a function of x and z, now dp is equal to partial p by partial x times dx plus partial p by partial z dz. Now because dp is equal to 0 on free surface, from here what we'll get is dz by dx on the free surface, this is equal to minus dp by dx divided by dp by dz, and this gives us rho times ax by minus rho g. So this will be equal to minus ax by g, the same result which we got earlier. So this is the case when we have linear surfaces. Well, if you have inclined surface and you choose x and y along and perpendicular to incline, then acceleration will be only a sub x, but gravity will have g sub x and g sub y. Both components will be non-zero. One of them will be g sine theta, the other will be g cos theta. So therefore, this you may have to keep in mind if you are inclining your axis. Now what about the rotating case? In case of a rotating fluid, once again we start with the basic equation. Grad P is equal to rho times G minus A. G is equal to minus Gk, and acceleration in this case, if we have r omega square in the minus er direction. So if something is rotating like this, then this is the er direction which is going out, and g is in the minus ez direction or k direction. So g is equal to minus gk, and acceleration is pointing inwards, equal to minus r omega square er. So therefore dp by dr is equal to minus rho. So this will be minus rho times a sub r is equal to minus rho r omega square into, there's another minus sign, so this becomes equal to rho r omega square, and therefore pressure will become equal to rho r square omega square by 2 plus f of z, and the other equation gives us partial p by partial z is equal to minus rho g, and eventually when you do this you'll get p is equal to rho times r square omega square by 2 minus rho gz plus c. And here we can see surface of constant pressure in this case has the form z is equal to a plus br square, and this is called a paraboloid of rotation. Now from this equation we can see z is the lowest value at r is equal to 0, that means on the axis of rotation. So if we have a fluid in a jar like this and it is rotating, so then we have the free surface here is a paraboloid. That means the shape, this is how this, if this is rotating with omega, then the free surface is going to take a shape like this, and these will be lines of constant pressure. So this is the shape of free surface, and these are lines of constant pressure. So that is how one does problems involving these solid body rotation, and you can solve these problems as we have done. Thank you very much.